President-elect Trump's legal team files an emergency petition Wednesday morning to the United States Supreme Court in an effort to block his sentencing in the New York hush money case. One America's chief White House correspondent, Daniel Baldwin, is live on the North Lawn. Good morning, Daniel. Was this surprising?
Stephanie, good morning. Always good to chat with you. No, it wasn't, especially given the time crunch and the timeline facing the Trump legal team here, with New York Judge Juan Merchan set to sentence the president-elect this upcoming Friday regarding the New York hush money case. Again, a New York jury found the president-elect guilty of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. And now this petition from the Trump legal team is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to step in and stay the criminal proceedings involving this, specifically referencing the decision that the High Court made involving presidential immunity. Trump's spokesperson, Stephen Chung, released a statement on the petition earlier today saying the U.S. Supreme Court's historic decision on immunity, the Constitution, and established legal precedent mandate that this meritless hoax be immediately dismissed. Now, when you read the petition, Stephanie, Trump's attorneys claim that Trump is, quote, entitled to an automatic stay of criminal proceedings while his claims of presidential immunity from criminal prosecution are addressed on interlocutory appeal to New York's appellate courts and, if necessary, this specific court. Remember, Trump's team, right after that presidential immunity decision from the Supreme Court came down this summer, immediately filed a motion to dismiss the verdict in the case of Judge Merchan, citing the fact that in that presidential immunity decision, the High Court held that official acts could not be used in an evidentiary way against a president in criminal proceedings. The Trump team alleges that New York prosecutors did just that, submitting tweets that President Trump made in his official Twitter account as evidence, also citing testimony from close White House officials, such as former White House Communications Director Hope Hicks. So this is something that the Trump team is citing to the U.S. Supreme Court. The U.S. Supreme Court gave New York prosecutors until 10 a.m. tomorrow, Stephanie, to respond to this. Again, if the U.S. Supreme Court does not step in, the sentencing will take place Friday morning. Donald Trump could show up in person. He could attend via Zoom or virtually in that sense. Judge Merchan, in his decision to sentence Donald Trump this Friday, made it pretty clear that he at least insinuated that he would not be looking to sentence him to incarceration in any way. Rather, he would look to give him an unconditional discharge. But if the sentencing does happen, the left-wing media will have their favorite words, convicted felon, ready to go 10 days later when President Trump is inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States, Stephanie.
Well, meantime, switching gears, Trump is in Washington today ahead of former President Jimmy Carter's funeral. He will be meeting with Senate Republicans to discuss reconciliation. What can you tell us about that?
Well, that meeting is scheduled to take place around 6 p.m. Eastern Time here tonight on Capitol Hill. And for those of you who aren't familiar, reconciliation is a legislative process that allows certain budget-related bills to avoid the dreaded word, the filibuster, in the Senate. And they can be passed with a simple majority, 51 threshold. So it lowers the threshold for certain types of budget-related bills to pass the Senate. And as you know, the GOP has a 53 to 47 advantage in the U.S. Senate chamber as it stands right now. The problem here, Stephanie, is that Republicans have to figure out the best way to pursue this action, whether or not it's a one big, beautiful bill, as President-elect Donald Trump talked about yesterday in Mar-a-Lago, or it's two separate bills. And congressional Republicans seem to be sort of split down the middle on this specific aspect, while Donald Trump has emphasized he's open to both, though he prefers the one big bill. Some Senate Republicans have argued that splitting it into two bills specifically could be beneficial because they can get some border security and energy aspects passed before tackling the tax cuts and the spendings, which may have Republicans a little bit more split. But House Republicans have warned that splitting it into two bills runs the risk of failing to pass the second bill extending Donald Trump's tax cuts. President-elect invited some House Republicans down to Mar-a-Lago this weekend for meetings to talk about what types of topics would be included in either this one bill or multiple bills. But listening to Senate Republicans, House Republicans talk to reporters this week, talk to the press, it seems abundantly clear that they are going to follow the wishes of the president-elect. So Donald Trump will have a significant say as to how this entire process shapes up. So on January 20th, they can hit the ground running.
And Daniel, this comes on the heels of a marathon press conference at Mar-a-Lago largely focused on possible American expansion regarding Canada, Greenland, the Panama Canal. What was the reaction to Trump's push?
Mass hysteria from the left-wing media, of course, Stephanie, but the main focus of the press, or at least initially, was on DMAC investing $20 billion into data centers in the United States. That's significant for a couple of different reasons. It shows that Donald Trump is making the United States more friendly environment for foreign investors to come forth and invest billions of dollars into the United States. But energy centers and data centers use a significant amount of energy. The Department of Energy actually claims that they use 10 to 50 times more energy than a normal typical office space would. So someone who's investing in building data centers would not go where energy costs are super high. So it shows that DMAC is making a bet that Donald Trump will follow through with his campaign promise to slash energy costs by 50%. Moving on to the talks about him annexing Canada, purchasing Greenland, acquiring the Panama Canal, it all sort of goes towards Donald Trump's vision of making sure that China, Russia, Europe, all of these areas are kept out of the sphere of influence of areas that he views towards national security importance. He emphasized that Greenland was of national security importance. He talked about how China already essentially controls the Panama Canal, which is one of the most 8 important passageways in the entire world. And when it came to Canada, President-elect Donald Trump talked about how Canada has been ripping the United States off in trade deals for far too long. We know that the president-elect has threatened a 25% tariff on Canadian exports into the United States. And we know that Canada's biggest trading partner is, in fact, the United States. When you look at it, Stephanie, Canada actually exported more than 75% of its goods to the United States in the year of 2023. The dollar figure amount comes out to actually $440 billion worth of exports to the United States. So this tariff threat towards Canada certainly will not be falling on deaf ears up there, given the amount of revenue that Canada generates based on its exports to the United States. Donald Trump also issuing a tariff threat to Denmark as well if they won't play ball when talking about negotiations to hand over Greenland to the United States. But it sort of goes into the mold of Donald Trump looking to protect American interests in the Western Hemisphere, and I think that will certainly become a major talking point once Donald Trump takes 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue on January 20th.
Yeah, economic coercion seems to be the phrase to be on the lookout for and see if that takes hold and that takes action. Again, we know that you are giving us the latest updates regarding all of these issues. Again, One America's chief White House correspondent Daniel Baldwin live from D.C. Be sure to stay warm out there. Thank you so much again for that report.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live. OAN Live is the best way to stay up to date on all of the hard-hitting, straight-shooting, national and international headlines. And the best part is, OAN Live is only $4.99 per month. All the credible, honest, unbiased reporting One America News offers at a fraction of the cost of cable. Just go to OANN.com to easily sign up for OAN Live and stay informed.